Hello and welcome to today's edition of Start at Zero. I'm AV. I'm the founder and CEO at Avero Advisors. We are an independent third-party consulting firm that focuses on local governments across the country in helping them modernize their technology. Today, my guest is Mike Hammond, the Honorable
Well, you're very kind.
Mike Hammond, who is the clerk of the criminal court in Knoxville,
Yes,
Knox County. And Mike has been in public service for a long time. Started in broadcasting, and
that's correct.
before we came on live, we were just talking about how he bridged that gap between radio and being an elected official. But you've been on the county commission, you've been the chair of the commission, and then you've been the clerk for uh, 20, 30 years?
I've been, 10 years as county commission, 12
Right.
years now as the criminal court clerk, and I'm going to be serving another term. So
Wow.
as of today, it's about 22 years.
Wow. And then 46 years as private sector manager in broadcasting.
Yes,
That must have been fun.
it was fun. Radio was just a great opportunity to meet people. I love music and I love just interacting with people. And there's something magical about being on the radio. People tell me I have a radio face, so I wasn't really interested in television, but I had a good voice, and I was very interested in the radio. And started when I was 15 years old.
Hmm. You still go on air sometimes
I do not. I haven't
as a
done
guest, I'm
radio in
sure.
a long
Yeah.
time. I do. I still keep. I try to keep my voice going, and so I'm the public address announcer for Lady Vol basketball, and I've been doing that now for over 30 years. So I was in the arena yesterday when Tennessee was taking on Vanderbilt, and unfortunately the Lady Vols lost, but they've got some more games to go.
Yeah, yeah. We're just starting, right? So broadcasting background, and you're running for re-election this year.
That's correct.
And you've seen it all. I mean, since 2014, you started in local gov.
I was 2014 was when I became the clerk, the
Clerk.
criminal court clerk.
Okay. I mean, when you got into county commission, you probably remember things being very different in terms of government technology. Tell us a little bit about the good old days.
I have found that in government in general, we're behind. And the reason we're behind is you need to make investment into technology because it changes, as you know, almost by the
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
And so back in 2004, when I first came on county commission, we were talking then about what we needed to do to upgrade technology in Knox County government.
Hmm.
And that's massive. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not something that, you can come in and say, oh, well, let's upgrade technology, because you've got to have the people, you need the infrastructure, and you've got to have a plan. And I found out at that time, back in 2004, we really didn't have a plan for technology,
Mm.
because I think it was still in its infancy, to be quite frank. Was okay, well, where do we go? Because, we didn't see what we know today
Yeah.
back then. If we could have seen and had a crystal ball, we probably could have put together a more effective plan. But again, a lot of it gets back to money, and people don't like to raise taxes,
Right.
and you don't like to spend money that the public would view as frivolous. And I don't think that technology is frivolous, by the way. But one of the things that I found when I became the criminal court clerk was we were behind just in our counter in making receipts. Someone would
Mhm.
pay, and we'd try to get them a receipt. And we had to jump through a lot of hoops to do that because our technology was antiquated. And so people would say to us, well, I can go to Walmart and and I can get a receipt right away.
Yeah.
Why can I not get a receipt? We said, well, that's just not the way we're set up. Now we're making strides, we're making progress. But basically, I found that we were behind. And again, it was the lack of a plan. But I believe we've developed plans now
Mhm.
in Knox County to address those technology needs.
So, as you've seen this office grow in terms of well, you don't want the number of people served to be a KPI for you, but uh, what were the small things you did to streamline, to make things better? I mean, you implemented e-payments. One of the things you did. What was the first thing you did? Because you didn't have a plan. Most things were obviously on paper. People couldn't get receipts. What was the small dent you made? Because a lot of times it's about money. It's also not knowing where to begin, right? So where did you start thinking about technology?
The first thing we did was we replaced computers. Now, that sounds like a small thing, but it's a big
not.
thing.
Yeah.
because we needed to replace some of the antiquated computers that we had. So we were able to begin the process of replacing computers in the office. We were also replacing software. We had antiquated software. The other thing that we did initially was people would come to the courthouse and they would not know which courtroom they were to go into. And so they were continually coming up to our counter and saying, "Where do I go?"
Yeah.
So we worked with our IT people and we put together 4 screens in our lobby area. And we were able to do a scrolling docket every day so that when people came into our lobby area, they didn't have to come to the counter. They could go to our screens and look and see where they were supposed to go to court. Now, that was a small thing, but that was a huge leap for us.
Yeah.
The next thing that we did was we were able to get some technology money, and we were able to redo our counters and actually put computers on our counters so that people could see their transactions. And then we were able to work with our bank to actually be able to take debit cards. And again, we're way behind now because the private sector was doing it for a long time. And that was really helpful too, because we were able to use debit cards, credit cards, and we were also able to do cash transactions and keep a better audit. Because when you're dealing with government money and taxpayer dollars, you want to make sure that you have an effective audit system. And so that's another thing we were able to do, was to implement an effective audit system of the monies that were taken in and where the money was going.
And that's not small, Mike. I mean, I know you've talked about replacing computers as the first step, but that's what it takes.
Right.
If the end user has 20-year-old technology, it doesn't matter what you're giving them.
That's true.
Yeah. And on the customer side, having information is the name of the game. They don't want to stand at the window. They don't want to be, asking questions about what courtroom to go to. You just want to see it. You want information to come to the people that need it. And advanced or not, that's the end goal, is to streamline your work and to streamline communication to your customers. And you've done that. So behind, I don't know. Most governments we work with are in the same space, and everyone feels like they're behind. And especially now with everyone talking about AI and how it's gonna eat your job and you're gonna be left behind. I don't see that happening that quickly, but it may have changed since we started talking about it, right? One of the other cool things you did is the mobile app.
Yes.
Right? And so that is the advancement from a kiosk that could take a debit card. And then you probably did something else, but the mobile app, that's a pretty unique feat. Did you build that in-house with your IT, or was it a third party?
It was a third party, and I believe we were the first court in the state to implement this app. And now other people have followed suit because they have found out how effective it was. And one of the things we did, which I'm quite proud of, it was kind of at the time cutting edge technology, was if you wanted to come downtown, a lot of people are intimidated about coming to downtown Knoxville. They don't know where to park.
Yeah.
They don't know where our building is. Once they get in the building, where do I go? So we actually put and I don't know what the name of it is, but you could come in, hit a button, and it would show the building. And you could actually use an arrow to say, I need to go to Third Sessions Court.
Cool.
Where is that?
Yeah.
And it would guide you and show you where to go. And actually, where you parked, you could actually use that app and it would show you and have arrows. You go up this street, you go in this entrance, and then once you get there, then you do this. So we've had that done now for about 3 or 4 years. And that has been tremendously successful for people who are intimidated and don't know where to park. That helps them. And it helps them navigate getting into our building and getting back to their cars.
And also it frees up time for your frontline workers at the counter from answering questions on directions to doing real work that your office is taking on. I think that is also the way of the future. Now, when people talk about AI to me, it's like, we're going to go buy something that's going to make our lives easier. What they don't realize is all of the work someone like you have done, studying patterns, studying what people need, studying what needs to happen to get people where they need to be or what they need is the hard work. And buying software that says AI can do this for you easily, it's just the tip of the iceberg. You can't do that without having done all the groundwork that you have done. So really kudos to you. Um, but how do you then teach your people about technology? This is something we started talking about too. It's not just new computers. Now you're having them do business in a different way. And there's resistance, right? People
Oh,
want to
absolutely.
people want to do their work and go
Mhm.
home. And here's Mr. Hammond saying, here's a new tool that's going to make your life better, but there's a learning curve. How do you get over those bits of resistance there?
We have people in the office that have been there for 15, 20, 25, even 30 years. And so they have learned over the years to do things a certain way. When I came into office, some people were still using typewriters. Yes, typewriters. And so immediately I said, okay, the typewriters are going. And that really created quite a stir in the office because they're saying, well, we need the typewriters.
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. We're going to teach you a new way. And so getting the buy-in took some time. But what I did was I explained to them, I said, I want to go back to my radio days. I said, I'm going to show my age here. But I said, when I became a disc jockey at age 15, I played 45s on turntables. And they would look at me like, turntables? Well, I think I've seen that. I said, then we graduated from turntables to 8-track tapes. And so we would actually put the music on an 8-track tape, put it in the machine, hit a button. So we didn't have to, do the thing with the records. Then we had a thing called a compact laser disc.
Yeah.
And I said, that was really revolutionary at the time. The music sounded better.
LP,
yeah. And I said, we would come in and we would have the discs, and the record companies would send us discs. And so we could actually load up 3 or 4 discs and we'd have our music set and ready to go off the quote compact laser disc.
Mhm.
Then we graduated to computers. We were able to put all of our music on computers. And even then we were able, the DJs, the people on the air, were able to use what we call voice tracking so that you could actually sit in Knoxville and do a show in Portland, Oregon. And this completely changed the industry, that you didn't really need on-air people, local on-air talent.
Yeah.
And it saved a lot of money. I didn't like that, by the way. But nonetheless, I like the local feel. But as I explained to them, I said, I've had to go through change, but it's been for the better. And it's been one of those things where we want to change for the better. We want to help you do your jobs. We want to teach you new things. We want to teach you how to do Microsoft. We want to teach you how to do Excel. And those are, some basic things, but they bought into it.
Yeah.
And so instead of using typewriters and doing things by hand, they learned to do things by computer. After about 3 or 4 months, it was amazing. They said, oh, wow, this is better. It's quicker. And we like this. Yeah. Change is sometimes difficult, but in the end result is it's usually better.
Yeah, and the starting with why, right? Why are you resistant to this? Because typewriters are also cool. Yeah, I have one. I used to type letters from my grandfather. He would sit and dictate them. So I have an affinity for typewriters and fountain pens and all the cool things. But is that what makes us do business better? No, right? So I think it's the same moment we are in today. I keep going back to as I talk to you. AI is going to change everything.
Absolutely.
Yes, but for the better, as long as we do it right, as long as we get the right kind of equipment to replace that typewriter. It's not going to replace the human capital, the amount of knowledge your people have over the years. That's not replaceable. Maybe the workflows are, and they'll get automated. So tell me about the driver's license program that you won an international award for.
We did. We found that from the Department of Safety told us that we had 75,000 people in Knox County that were driving on a suspended or a revoked license.
Oh.
A lot of that had to do with cost, not paying fines and fees and so forth. Some people had been incarcerated, they got out of jail, and they could not afford, to pay the costs of the court costs. Yeah. And so it didn't mean they weren't driving. It meant that they were driving without a license. Now, if you've had an accident with someone who has no insurance and no license, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So we talked with the Department of Safety, and we told them that we wanted to help them because We also found that people trying to deal with the state, it was not a pleasant experience because you were dealing with people in Nashville.
Mhm.
So we actually went to Nashville and talked with the people at the Department of Safety and said, we want to help you. What can we do to help people expedite this process? They were, to my surprise, very willing
Mm.
to let us do that. So we started a driver's license program. And so people could come in, we would pull their record, we would see exactly what their record was, if they owed monies and so forth. And so we started working with them to try to get their driver's license reinstated. We also met with our judges because the judges had to be involved. Yeah. And so the judges were very willing to take a look at the individual cases and say, okay, you know, Mike Hammond, he was incarcerated. He's been out of jail now for about 3 or 4 years. He's struggling to find a job and so forth, but he's not going to find a job if he can't drive,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, legally.
Yeah.
And so he needs that driver's license because it's also an ID. Because imagine if you didn't have your license and I didn't have mine, and how many times are we asked to show an identification? Well, you don't have it, you don't have an ID.
Right.
So that was part of the other issue. So we started the program and found that it was hugely popular because when people found out we did that, they started coming in by the numbers and we were overwhelmed. So we had one person that was working part-time, they became full-time. We now have 2 people working full-time on the driver's license program. And so we help them maneuver the Department of Safety. We help them with their local issues. We will actually go before the judge and say, you know, Judge so-and-so's here and we need to try to get them their license, and the judge will listen. And most of the time they will agree to go ahead and waive those amounts.
Oh, wow.
And so they can actually get their driver's license. And so we also started with the Department of Safety doing what we call a driver's license fair. We started that on Saturday mornings from 9 until noon. Department of Safety came in, they embraced the idea. They brought in their team so that you could do the eye test, you could do the written test, you could do the driving test. The judges were there. So it was one-stop shop. So people were able to come in and get most of it done. If they actually came and we couldn't give them their license that day, they knew at least what they needed to do to get it, you know, over that next week. So far, we now have over 4,000 people who have gotten their license through this program. And so today, I don't know how many people they're working on today, but they'll have anywhere from 20 to 30 individual accounts that they're working on at any given time to try to help people. I will tell you that we had one individual who had not had a license in 41 years. Doesn't mean they weren't driving, they were driving. So we were able to get that license.
Nice.
And we've been able to work out some really difficult situations. We had a gentleman who was here from New Jersey, and we had to work with the state of New Jersey to try to help him get some of his record clean. And you know, he'd been working here and was a responsible citizen, but it was one of those things where you got to jump through hoops.
Yeah.
And he just didn't know how to maneuver New Jersey and Tennessee. Yeah. And it took a while, but we were able to help him get that license.
So we talk about innovation quite a bit, right? And that's such a great example of innovation that doesn't involve computers,
right,
or technology. That's not the only way you get innovation, right? Mm-hmm. Innovation is thinking outside the box, trying to see who we need in the room to make some decisions and get things moving. And that's impact. I mean, that well-deserved of an award, because really when we talk about innovation, people are stuck on, but how can we automate or make this better with technology? It doesn't need technology all the time.
Right.
Right. And
You're exactly right.
Yeah, and that also brings me to, even in technology, you need to think about problem solving and providing outcomes, and then layer on top, maybe some piece of that would need some technology, but it's not technology first. So you could have gone and looked for a software. How can we build this? How can we buy this software that will make all of this easier? All it took was some will and management thinking. That's amazing. You're also known for generating savings for the county. $6.5 million returned to the county. And tell me how.
Well, I think that goes back to my radio background.
Okay.
Because when you're in private business, and you're in private business as well, you're always thinking about how can I grow my business? Mm-hmm. Because you never know what's going to happen. You know, you might have a recession, you might have a client that all of a sudden decides they want to go somewhere else. And so you're looking at it saying, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And when I came on board, I told our people, we have got to do a better job of collecting our fines and our fees because we did not have a process. Frankly, my predecessor did not put a premium on collections.
Mm.
It was like, if I can make enough money just to cover my payroll, I'm okay. I said, I'm not okay with that.
Mhm.
I said, that's our job. That's, written in the Constitution. You will collect the fines and the fees. And that's not a popular thing to try to go out and collect money, but nonetheless, that's what we're supposed to do. And so I gave them the example of, I believe it was 2008. Again, I go back to my radio background, and this is, where I think it's really helped me in this job. So back in 2008, we had an economic downturn.
Mhm.
And in the radio business, it was within 2 to 3 weeks. Because of the economic downturn, car business was huge for radio. We had a lot of automobile dealers who were advertising,
Mhm.
probably our biggest category. And I said, within about a week or two, we lost 26% of our business. And I said, that was a huge hit.
Yeah.
So we were faced with, okay, what are we going to do? Because you're looking at laying off people, you're looking
Mhm.
at making staff cuts, you're looking at maybe asking people to take a cut in pay, all of those things that businesses do, and legitimately so.
Yeah.
So we all got together in a room and we said, okay, even though we're in an economic downturn, what can we do to generate business? And so we had the whiteboard and we started saying, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? We were able to survive because we found out that when people don't have a lot of money, where do they go? Pawn shops.
Mhm.
So we started calling on pawn shops, which was not one of our clients.
Right.
But we found out that pawn shops were very willing to advertise because they knew that if people needed to sell something or if they needed to buy things at a discount, pawn shops is where people would go. The other category, which became our number one category, was fast food. People maybe couldn't afford to go to a higher priced restaurant or even a medium priced restaurant, but they wanted to eat out. Well, they would go to fast food because of the value menus,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And so we really did a good job of going to local fast food and local restaurants and things like that, that were willing to say, hey, we're going to have the value menu. We're going to be doing, family night where kids eat free, those kinds of things. And for a period of time, that actually became our number one category. And so just by innovative thinking, putting people in a room and saying, okay, where can we go to do this? We were able to survive. And then, of course, the economy started to improve,
Mhm.
et cetera. And so I told our staff, I said, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to sit around, we're going to come in, what can we do to generate funds? We found out that our people were really not asking people at our counter. They would come out of court, they would come up to our counter. They weren't asking. Well, as you know, in business, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I said, okay, we're going to retrain people. And we're going to say, hey, you owe this money. What can we do to help you? Let's work out a payment plan. Can you do $10 a month? Can you do $30 a month? Can you do $100 a month? And we found that was very successful because as you talk with people, most people want to satisfy their debt.
Yeah.
But they may not have $2,000 or $3,000, but they may have $50 or a payment plan over a period of time. So we were able to do that. The other thing we were able to do is to look at how can we generate more money from the state, because the state reimburses us for certain things. Well, my predecessor was not sending that information to the state. So as a result, we weren't getting checks. So as we talked with our people, we found out, and this came from the staff, they said, well, we could get money if we did this. I said, well, let's do it.
No.
We started doing it, and sure enough, we started getting in monies that we were owed from the state and also from Knox County as well.
Wow.
So it was just a matter of business thinking, and not really thinking of, well, I'll just do enough to get by. It's no, let's see what we can do. And the staff bought into it. They were trained to ask that question. How can we help you? Can you do this? And with great success.
And it's also, a lot of our clients hire us to do process analysis. They know something's off, and it's typically related to like a financial system or some kind of technology, but the output isn't there. And what you're telling me is, I'm going to put my own words to this, is you did a business process analysis.
Right.
See where the gaps are, what's blocking us from taking that revenue in or collecting from the state, and you found those nuggets. It was one or two big things that were holding you up. And again, innovative thinking. And thanks for telling that story about the radio days. But that's, you know, government is not that different, right? If you treat it different, then you end up in a situation like what you inherited.
Well, I found out that people say, okay, we want you to treat government like a business.
Yeah.
And that's okay until you start treating it like a business.
Right.
And then it's like, well, wait a minute, you can't do that. And
Yeah.
so I said, well, but that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're challenged to keep the record and to collect the money. And I said, we haven't been collecting the money. We're going to start collecting the money. And so because of the success that we have had, I don't get that anymore of, well, you can't treat it like a business. Because I tell people we are a business. I mean, we have $15 million a year that go through our office. That's not small chump change.
No.
I mean, that's a significant amount of money. And when you look at the number of people last year, just in our criminal sessions court, 60,000 people came through that court.
Wow.
That's a lot of people. And so when you look at the numbers are there to make sure that we generate what we need to do to pay for our office. Because being a fee office, we pay for ourselves. Knox County does not give us monies.
Yeah.
We generate the money ourselves. And so when you look at just the numbers are there to really pay for what we need to have paid for.
Yeah, and it, business thinking in government, when there is no profit motive, right? You can't sell people on this is going to save you money and we'll all make more money, and that's a challenge,
Right.
in government.
Mm-hmm.
I know your people were willing to do it, and I think it was exciting at the time when they found this method of bringing in more revenue. But I bet that was a sales job you had to do.
Well, the interesting thing about that is because we pay for ourselves.
Yeah.
I told them, I said, do y'all want to make more money?
Mm.
Who here does not want to make more money? Well, of course, no one said
Right.
that. Everyone wants to make more
Yeah.
money. I sold it because I said, the more money we bring in, the more opportunity I have to give you more money.
Mm-hmm.
So every time you ask that question, think of it as it could be money in my pocket.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different way of thinking. If you're thinking, okay, this is what we're charged to do, this is the procedure that we use. And if the thought process is, it's really going to help me down the road make more money for me and my family, it's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the big reasons I was able to sell it.
So government itself may not have a profit motive, but people
Right.
are people.
Oh, people are people.
People are people. That's amazing. And you also help set up the mental health court. Tell me about that, because that's something that's unique. I don't see it in a lot of places, especially in Tennessee. So what was the genesis of that, and what role did you play in that?
We found out that the number one mental health facility in East Tennessee was the Knox County Detention Facility.
Oh.
And so years ago, they closed Lakeshore Mental Health Hospital. When they did, the idea was, let's take the money that was going to Lakeshore and let's put it into the private sector. That worked for a while. But mental illness has gotten, I hate to use the term gotten worse, but we see more cases of mental
Mm-hmm.
illness now, particularly in the court. The two biggest things that happen in the court are mental illness and addiction. And so if something could happen to help those two things, it'll cut down on the number of people that commit crime and come to court. So as we were looking at the whole mental health issue, I found that there were people in other parts of the country that had a mental health court. That intrigued me. And so I actually got on a plane and flew to New York, and the first mental health court in America was in Brooklyn. And the judge is still the judge that started the mental health court. And I thought, I want to know what he knows. I want to talk with him. And he was very willing to meet. And so spent 2 days up in New York, actually went into the court, talked extensively with the judge and his team, and found out that it works great in New York. And they've had great success with it. Now, the mental health court is not a 90-day rehab,
Mm-hmm.
which you hear a lot about.
Yeah.
This is a 16 to 18 month program. And so the people who come into mental health court, they have to agree that they're going to be in this program for a long period of time. Some people don't want to do that. It's voluntary, by the way. And so not all cases of mental health are applicable to this
Mhm.
court. It's usually your minor levels of mental illness. But we came back, and then COVID hit. So everything had to be put on hold.
Yeah.
So I got together with our mayor, Glenn Jacobs, and our judges, and I said, I have this idea for a mental health court. I really believe we could make it work. And so the mayor put together a team which consisted of our judges, our attorney general, and our public defender. We all got in a room. It took us a year to develop it because you have differing points of view from your public defender as opposed to your attorney general, and also judges. And we also brought in members of the private bar. So we met for over a year and put together the framework for a mental health court. And as luck would have it, the state of Tennessee decided we want to start looking at mental health courts. So they appropriated funding for a mental health court. See, at that time, we didn't have any funding. We didn't know how we were going to pay for it. Well, the state came in and said, we have funding for it. And so we were on the beginning stages of that process. And so now for 3 years in a row, the state has actually paid for our mental health court. And that was huge. But we now have, in 2 years, we have 9 graduates. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you figure
18-month
it's an 18-month program, and these
That's a lot.
people who graduate, they have jobs, they have housing, they're on their medications, and the chances of success are great because they're not going to come back into the system.
Mhm.
And so they're now productive citizens.
Another great instance of innovation without using the word technology.
Right.
That's amazing. So let's look at the future, Mike. You're still the TSCCA president.
I was last year.
Excuse me.
I'm still on the board.
Okay. So you're seeing the clerk's offices statewide dealing with problems. You have solutions for them. But what's the biggest thing to look forward to in the next 4 years? And we'll tie this into your campaign. What's the plan? What do you want to accomplish in the next term?
The General Assembly has passed a law that says there will be a statewide case management system. Right now, each county does their own thing. Most of the counties have a program called Tensis. Those are mainly your smaller counties.
Right.
But what we call the big four, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Nashville, and Shelby County, have their own systems. And like we have our homegrown system that was started back in 1998, and it's called GEMS. And so because there has been differences in reporting to the state, the legislature said we want to have one system so that we can make sure we're getting the data that we need for public policy. So that law was passed last year, and they allocated $75 million for the statewide system. So where we are now is there will be a vendor selected by the end of May. That's the goal. And then after that, there will be a team that will be coming in to the individual counties to say, okay, we're here to implement the new system. And they'll have to work with our IT department. They'll be working with our clerks and so forth. I have really been putting a push on the administrative office of the courts for us to be first in Knox County. I would love to have, and I told them, I said, I'll be your guinea pig. I'll be your pilot program. And our IT people agreed. And so I'm hopeful that we can start that process in the fall. And the benefit of that on a statewide system is, we'll get a new system.
Yeah.
But also, if a judge is sitting on the bench in Knox County and he wants to find out if Mike Hammond has a record in Weakley County, you'll be able to find that out.
Right.
And so with that statewide system, they'll be able to get data that they're looking for the legislature to make policies. For example, if you wanted to find out how many domestic assaults there were in the state of Tennessee, you'll be able to pull that data. Now, that's going to take a while, of course, but that's the end goal. And so we're hopeful we're going to be on the cutting edge of that. Part of that is going to be an AI component, we're told. We'll also be doing electronic e-filing, which we're not doing now, which the attorneys are going to like. There will be a redaction module for that. But I want to kind of be on the edge of AI because I don't understand it. I just know that it's there and it works and it's coming. And so I would like for us in our office to kind of be on the cutting edge of AI to see how we can work. Now, part of that is that the state Supreme Court is going to need to pass some rules regarding AI in the courtroom.
Right.
And they're already looking at that. And so As I go through this process of trying to figure out our processes in-house, the being able to utilize that in the courtroom is going to have to wait until the Supreme Court gives us guidelines on how it can be used. That's going to be a process too, because it's new. It's a whole new deal. How are the judges going to react? How's the public going to react? How's the DA, the public defender, the sheriff's department? There's a lot of entities here, and we all know it's coming. It's just a matter of we don't know what that looks like.
Yeah, and it's also a buzzword right now. It's somewhere in the middle of being reality for you and being a big marketing campaign.
Right.
We talked about marketing earlier, right? Whoever has the biggest voice and the biggest dollars will get the attention. So I think you're well suited to be the guinea pig, use the term, but I think it's pioneering from the point of view that you think deeply about the problem you're trying to solve with whatever technology, AI, the new system. If you go at it from an outcome standpoint, how does this make life easier for the judges, the sheriff's office, to the people we're serving?
Right.
Then you can make real impact on how it's deployed at Knox County and elsewhere in the state. I'll be watching that real close. So that sounds like a 4-year program anyway.
Oh, it is. They say that it'll take anywhere from 5 to 7 years to implement statewide, because you're looking at 95 counties, 204 courts. So to get it all going, and like if Knox County is first, it won't be just my office. It'll be Charlie Susano, who's the circuit court clerk and the juvenile clerk, as well as the clerk and master. So it'll be all of Knox County, our judges, our DAs, the sheriff, everybody. And so I can't even wrap my head around it. It's such a massive project.
It is, and just between your two courts, I'm not even counting clerk and master because it's not the same process.
Right.
Right. It tends to be bundled together, but criminal court, civil, the differences are pretty stark. There's a lot of commonalities, but it's not the same pool of citizens you're serving at the same time. And clerk and master is also a different story. So I'll be curious to see how that is handled. I think it'll be important for you to make sure that you're getting your own processes.
Right, exactly.
Right, and they're not trying to copy and paste something else from something that worked for some other clerk and master to you. And that's what causes most failures in our experience. But just having spent this time with you, I know that you're a systems thinker, you're a design thinker, and you're looking to the future because you're right. AI is here, it's coming, but in what capacity do we use it to make our lives better is the biggest question to ask, because it will keep changing.
It will.
It will. And nobody's behind at this point. It's a myth that people are trying to push out and say, you will get left behind. Left behind what? We're here to serve our citizens, and if it's a better tool, then we'll go use it. Let's see if there's any audience questions. I see one. Megan says, thanks for joining us. How has the clerk's office evolved over the last few years? I know you've talked about this in detail, but I think 10,000 foot view.
I think from a technology standpoint, we have tried to look at how can we come in and do what we need to do, from keeping the record to collecting the money. Another thing that we have done is, when I came on board, we were not doing any scanning, none. And we were so far behind. We were really behind on scanning because most everybody was, scanning their documents into the system. So we started doing that, and as of last month, we have now scanned over 3 million documents. Wow! And so we have really gotten into each criminal court. Actually, came on board about 6 to 8 months ago. It takes that long to come in and make sure that it's done and done correctly. So we've now scanned over 3 million documents. That's going to be helpful to us as we move to a new system. But also internally, it has made a huge difference because we're not dealing now with actual paper. We're not touching paper. We're actually going into the system so that we can pull records if we need to. We can actually email documents to attorneys. We can put together our appeals a lot more quickly to take to the Court of Appeals if there is an appeals process. And so we also put together, this is interesting, I think, because I learned a lot when I came on board as the criminal court clerk, because I was in radio. I wasn't a lawyer. So I came in and they said, oh, by the way, you need to go down to the vault, to our criminal evidence vault. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, we have a criminal evidence vault. I said, you mean we do that? And he said, yeah, we do. Any item that has been presented in a criminal case in Knox County since the 70s, evidence has been put in that vault. We have now over 30,000 items in that vault.
Wow.
We had no way to track it. The lady who was keeping up with it actually had a box with cards. And so she would write them down and put them and try to file them. Many times we couldn't find it and we'd have to really search to find evidence. That's kind of important, particularly on an appeal. So we put together a program, a computerized program, so that now if evidence is given to us, we log it into the system, and we also completely redid our evidence vault so that we have compartments. Because in that evidence vault, we have guns, we have jewelry, we have anything that has been presented, cash. It's amazing the number of weapons we have down there that's been utilized. But nonetheless, we can find it now, because if they come in and say, hey, we need to find the evidence from this case back in 1997, we're able to say we know exactly where it is. It's in bin 3 on row 4. And that's been huge because that has taken a lot of time away from just trying to find something. So those are just a couple of examples of things that we have also done that has really helped that were not being done at the time. And so that has really made a huge difference, I think, in our system of justice, because you want to make sure that you have everything done correctly. And I'd like to throw just one more nugget your way.
Going, yeah. It's great.
When I came in our jury room, found out that if you needed to see a body cam video, or if you needed to listen to a 911 call, what they would do was they had a little laptop. And so they would gather all 12 jurors, mainly it was more than that because you had your alternates.
Yeah.
They would all gather around a small laptop and try to listen and hear and see. Well, when I talked to our judges and I said, what's the number one thing that you need? They said, we really need to do an upgrade in our jury room, because, if your life is on the line, you want to make sure that jury can see clearly and hear clearly.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first things we did too, in addition to the screens I was talking to you about, was we bought big screen TVs, which we were able to get at a good discount, utilized our IT department, and we were able to put screens in all of our jury rooms so that if you had evidence that was a body cam or a 911, the jury could see it clearly and hear it clearly. That's why I say I think we've done a lot to improve the system of justice in Knox County, because I know I wouldn't want to take a chance on the jury not being able to see a video clearly.
Yeah. And, those are, as simple as they sound, those are some difficult projects to put together, because you need to make sure it's not just the TV, what's feeding into it, who can see it,
right?
The system of locking these jurors in so they can't leak information.
Right.
All of that takes process, and all of that takes, again, design thinking and problem solving. Mike, it's been an honor. Thank you for joining us today. And
well, thank you. It's great to kind of reminisce about things that have happened over the last 12 years. So I appreciate the opportunity to go back into my memory banks and remember some of those things.
Anytime you want to talk about these things, you walk up the hill. Okay?
I will do
we're
that.
right there. But good luck with
Well,
the election.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us. This episode's live now and will be on our channels going forward. And if you want to learn more about anything that we do, our website is awareadvisors.com. And we will see you next time.